Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Deeper Dive, where we highlight an animal or some aspect of the aquarium that you wouldn't normally get to see on a regular visit. My name is Jeff. I'm the education manager here at the aquarium, and today it is my pleasure to be joined by our Curator of Birds, CJ McCarty. This month, we are going to feature our newest animal ambassador pelican, Sanibel.
Hi, I'm CJ McCarty, Curator of Birds at the Oregon Coast Aquarium. Today we're going to be talking about our pelican Sanibel and the other pelicans here at the Oregon Coast Aquarium. The pelicans that we have here at the Oregon Coast Aquarium are brown pelicans, but we have two types. One is the California brown pelican and one is the eastern brown pelican like Sanibel here next to me. Jojo is our California brown pelican, and if we look behind me, you might be able to tell one of the birds is a little larger than the other bird, and that would be Jojo. She also has red on her gular pouch and a nice orange-red bill as well. California brown pelicans tend to be a little bit larger than eastern brown pelicans, and the other physical difference is that the eastern brown pelicans don't get the red on their pouch. So there's just a couple of physical differences between the two subspecies of the brown pelican. Something cool about brown pelicans is of the 7 species of pelicans, they are the smallest species. So even though they are large birds, they're the smallest of all the pelicans. Even more interesting is they are one of only 2 plunge divers of the pelicans. And so that means these birds can fly above the surface of the water just by a few feet or even up to 60 feet, and they can then dive down in the water to catch fish. When brown pelicans plunge dive, they actually start their dive headfirst towards the water and at the last second throw their wings out behind them, entering the water like an arrow. Once they enter the water, they open their mouth to scoop fish and water. And their gular pouches, this nice tender area below their bill, actually stretches out and can hold up to 3 gallons of water. Once they've scooped, they come back up to the surface, tilt their head forward, straining out that water, and then they can swallow the fish down with a nice head shaking motion. Brown pelicans do look differently different times of the year. So right now they are in their breeding plumage. And so that includes the brown stripe on their neck. And again, if Jojo were to lift her head up, she's the pelican on the right behind me. She has that, again, red color on her pouch, her gular pouch, and she also has that orange-red bill. Sanibel standing next to me. Also, we can look at her eye color. Her eyes are a bright light blue, and pelicans do change their eye color depending upon the season. So they actually get kind of a hazy brown in the non-breeding season. The other thing that happens in the non-breeding season is they lose that brown stripe and it becomes white or grayish feathers. After they've molted out of their brown neck stripe, they do molt in a yellow patch on their neck, on their lower neck, and then they also molt in yellow feathers on their forehead. But once they've molted into their breeding plumage, they lose those yellow feathers. The pelicans here at the Oregon Coast Aquarium are ambassador birds, and what we've trained them to do, or are in the process of training, depending upon the individual bird, is to do pelican walks. And so what we've done is we've created a path from their enclosure here, up the pathway and out onto a stage where the public can see them. So up till now, Jojo has been our primary ambassador to the public. She's done lots of training presentations in front of crowds out at the pelican stage and has inspired and educated a lot of people. Right now we are training Sanibel to go out on the stage. So Heather is Sanibel's primary trainer, and they've been working on getting comfortable going up the path and coming out onto the stage where people may be present. A big part of that training is choice. We want the birds to be comfortable and have the choice to come out and be in front of the public. So when we train them to go up the path, we always allow them access to head straight home whenever they want to. And we've seen that a lot over the years with Jojo doing presentations. She's come out to start a presentation and then she turns around and heads home. And again, it's great to be able to explain that to public, that the birds do have a choice to participate in the program. Some of the things we like to educate about the brown pelicans is, of course, their natural history and some of the things that we do to take care of them here at the aquarium. So of course we want to give them a healthy diet, which includes a variety of fish. And when we're doing our presentations, we like to talk about the training that we do with our pelicans and a lot of the animals here at the Oregon Coast Aquarium. So one of the first things that we work with our animals on is getting them to follow us where we need them to go when we ask. And that sounds simple, but it's important that the animals are comfortable with their keepers or trainers and trust us enough to move where we need them to. Husbandry behaviors are really important. It's when the animal is participating in their health care. And so it could be something as simple as hopping on the scale, or it could be a sea lion holding still for a blood draw. Training can accomplish quite a few things. It can help with their medical care, their health care. It can stimulate them physically by exercise, and it can stimulate them mentally. So when we're working with an animal, it's kind of like communication. So they're trying to figure out what it is we're asking, and we're going to be reinforcing the behaviors that we're looking for, hoping that what we're reinforcing them with is going to motivate them to repeat that behavior in the future. So some of the things we try to work with our animals on are management behaviors. Those sometimes sound simple, like asking an animal to move from one area to another, which is really important, especially when you have a group of animals. If you need to get close to a particular animal, or you need to feed an animal separately than the others, or you want to separate an animal for medical care. So having the animals comfortable, trusting their keepers, and being able to move from one place to the other is one of the first things that we work with our animals on. Sometimes that can include hopping onto a scale. So getting the animals comfortable with hopping onto a different surface daily means that we can watch how their diet is affecting their weight, making sure they stay in a healthy weight, and we get to measure that with the animal's behavior and adjust their diets accordingly. So that's part of their health care. Sometimes we can ask the animals to hold still while we touch different parts of their body. We can examine them and make sure there isn't anything out of the ordinary, or if we want to maybe apply some medication to a part of their body, they might be comfortable with that. So the more things that you can do to take care of them without physically restraining them means less stress on the animals and a healthier animal overall. And other behaviors that we teach our animals sometimes seem silly, like you might be familiar with seeing a sea lion wave their flipper or blow a kiss. That might seem like a silly behavior, but that animal did have to figure out what the trainer was trying to get across. And so any behavior, whether it's a serious behavior or a silly behavior, the animal did have to figure that out. And so it's all mental stimulation. Here at the aquarium, we work really hard to make sure our animals are comfortable with us so that we can give them the best health care. But out in the wild, we want the opposite to happen for their wild counterparts. We want them to be as dehumanized as possible. They find themselves getting into trouble a bit because they will often gather where humans are gathered, a lot of times when they're at fish cleaning stations or even out at fishing boats. Sometimes they also get into trouble by debris left by humans, particularly fishing lines. So entanglement is a big problem for pelicans. So one of the things we like to share with the public is to remind them that if they are out enjoying activities like fishing, that they make sure that they take all of their debris and dispose of it properly. Or even if you're out on the beach or around fishing areas and you find leftover or discarded or otherwise broken fishing line, that you collect it and then dispose of it properly. We actually have examples of monofilament recycling bins that you can find around areas that fishing is common. So it's a perfect place to put any discarded fishing line that you find or have, and that way it'll actually be recycled appropriately and not entangle some of our friends. One of our pelicans here, Pip, she was an entanglement case, and it was so bad that she had to lose part of the toes and webbing on one of her feet. And that's the reason she wasn't able to be released back into the wild and needed a forever home here at the aquarium. So Sanibel got her name because she was actually found injured near Sanibel Island, which is off of Florida, and brought to the rehabilitation center on Sanibel Island called Clinic for the Rehabilitation of Wildlife. And she was a month there, and then found a home at Fresno Chaffee Zoo in California. And she was there a couple of years, but Sanibel was by herself, and the staff there hoped that she could get some pelican friends by coming up here to be at the Oregon Coast Aquarium. And since she's been here, she has definitely interacted with our two resident pelicans, Jojo and Pip, but because they have been together longer, they haven't quite welcomed her into their fold, but we have seen them hanging out closer and closer as time goes on. Sanibel was non-releasable because she is missing some of the webbing on her left foot, and also she has an injury on her wrist, causing her wing to turn out, and she has lost the ability to fly. And of course, in the wild, it's important for a bird to be able to fly, to get where they need to go, to evade predators, and if you're a brown pelican, for that plunge diving, to get up in the air. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed learning about Sanibel and our other pelicans here at the aquarium, and we hope you come visit us again soon.
So it's a step-by-step process. So when Sanibel first came here, we separated her from the other birds. Even though she'd been in quarantine from her other facility, we needed to keep her at least in a partial quarantine, so physically separate from our birds, to make sure she wasn't bringing anything new or would develop something new in the first 30 days of her being here. So during that time when she was by herself, we were, that's when we take advantage of trying to earn her trust and spending as much time with her as possible and trying to make all of those interactions positive. So showing her that we're bringing her food and that we're hanging out in a positive way, interacting with her. We started to learn things that she thought was fun, like water, spraying the hose in different ways and different toys. And so that's step one, getting comfortable with the keepers so that we can feed her regularly. And she took to that pretty fast. So right away, she started following us around. And then when we started introducing them to the other two existing pelicans, Pip and Jojo, we tried first introducing as one bird, Pip, who is of the two, the lesser dominant one, but being on her own, Pip was quite aggressive to Sanibel. So we stopped that, put the two together, Jojo and Pip, and then it was interesting because then as a pair, they didn't feel the need to chase her around. But because they were really bonded together, Jojo and Pip, they didn't include her right away. And they're still not really including her in their little pair, but they do, in general, let her sit and be nearer to them. Again, it's a step-by-step process. So we bring them from the enclosure. They actually have a door from their enclosure to the pathway that leads up to the pelican stage and the presentation stage. And so we start with Heather is Sanibel's primary keeper right now, and has spent a lot of time socializing her, playing with her on that pathway, and rewarding her for coming up there. So making it a really positive place to be. And then when there's no people around on the stage, slowly getting her closer and out onto the stage. And then once she's like used to that big space, that change when they come out the channel onto the open stage, then maybe a person or two is there and so forth. And so then they can start increasing that. And again, the big part of that part of training, which I mentioned in the video, is choice. So we want to make sure that the birds know the pathway home and that it's fine for them to leave. If they ever leave, we just follow them home, and that's okay. So that's a big part of bringing them out. And Sanibel's doing great out there. She had a break during spring breaks because there was a lot more people. And so now Heather's just working up to bringing her out there again with people around. So when we eventually can have full pelican presentations, hopefully she'll be pretty close to ready to go. Right, because we're still not encouraging close gatherings, it would be really hard to manage if we were doing a presentation, everybody trying to cram into the presentation area. It would be a pain to, space everybody out. So right now the aquarium's not encouraging big microphone talks or presentations. So we have to wait till we get a little bit further along in the COVID cure. Jojo is one of the original pelicans that came here. Originally, we did bring 3 birds, but one of the birds had a leg injury that we sent her back to the rehab facility, and she actually wasn't able to be repaired. So it was just Jojo, and Wren was our other original bird, and both of those birds were trained to do presentations. They arrived in October 2013, and then they started doing presentations spring break 2015, and so that was pretty cool. And Pip ended up passing away a few years later with an aneurysm in her carotid artery.
Wait, you said Pip, you mean Penny, right?
No, I'm Wren.
Oh, Wren. Gotcha.
Different bird. Wren, sorry, not Pip. Wren passed away. So Jojo's buddy, those were our 2 birds.
Yeah.
And Wren passed away. So Jojo was by herself. And then we brought in another set of birds, 2 birds from North Carolina. Pip, who is currently here, and her friend Penny, and they were both young birds. So when Jojo came at the end of 2013, she was already in adult plumage. So she should have been at least 3 years old then. And now, so she's 11 at least now. And then Pip, Pip and Penny came in 2017, they were juveniles. So she was 1.5 years then. So that makes her 4 or 5-ish now. And Pip and Penny were a young pair, and they were really cute together, really bonded. Jojo was kind of on the outs of them, but that was fine. She was sort of the dominant one. And then Penny had an injury, and through complications from that, she passed away. And so Pip and Jojo then bonded, and they got really strongly bonded. And so adding Sanibel to the mix, they're like, no, we're a pair. And they do that greeting that you saw in the video, like even if they're away from each other for a few steps. It's pretty adorable. We think into their 20s is, I think, a fair statement, how long they can live. I don't actually have statistics from birds in human care. For example, our turkey vulture, I heard from one place that turkey vulture celebrated its 40th birthday. So I know under human care, there can be some extended lives. In our aviary, for example, I heard one facility say they were pushing 40 on one of the alcids that they had. Our oldest birds in the aviary are around 33. Or 34 now. So with the pelicans, I don't know what the maximum age has been under human care, but I think into the 20s is a fair answer. Pip and Penny were chosen from a list that my team, we all submitted. I was happy because I really like alliteration. Is that the right term? So Penny the pelican, Pip the pelican. But Jojo, when she arrived, again, it was that group of 3 birds, and there were 3 bird keepers, and I joked that we should use our middle names to name the birds. I was the only one that actually did it. So my middle name is Jo, and so I named her Jojo. They are particular sometimes. So because none of our birds are particularly hungry, we never want them to be starving or hungry. They will choose. So if Pip if Pip specifically is not so hungry, silver sides will be her first choice, a small fish about this big, and then herring, and then capelin. So they definitely can have favorites. JoJo is the biggest because the California, like I mentioned in the video, the Californians are larger than the Eastern brown pelicans. And JoJo weighs about 4 kilo, which is times 2.2, right? 1 kilo is 2.2 pounds. So 8.5 pounds. So pretty big, but considering the size of them, not so much. My cat weighs 16 pounds. So in comparison, not that heavy. Right. So till now, we've only brought in rescue birds, and we only have females, so we're not breeding. However, I encourage everyone to look up a picture of a newly hatched pelican because they're bald and they have these big bulging eyes and this little miniature bill, and it's horrifying and beautiful at the same time. It's just hysterical. So you must look at a baby pelican. But so we wouldn't mind, excuse me, we wouldn't mind having a pelican chick to raise for sure, but it's not on our agenda right now.
All right. Thank you all for joining us for today's deeper dive with our pelicans. We appreciate all of your support, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.